What is up, all of you Dune fans out there? Dune Part 2 has finally arrived, and so far there's been nothing but non-stop excitement and praise towards it. As a massive fan, I've been really eager to see this movie, and now I have done just that. So, was the hype real? We're gonna get into it, but first make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you're new here, especially if you're trying to spice up your feed a little bit. See what I did there? A little pun on Arrakis? Little spice pun? But okay guys, over the last couple of weeks I've seen so many creators start their reviews out like this. Oh my gosh, I just saw Dune Part 2 and it was the craziest movie I've ever seen. And I've just been like, man, it must be really good. And I'm here to tell you right now, it is that good. But if you're unfamiliar, Dune Part 2 is the follow-up to Dune Part 1 from Denis Villeneuve, starring Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, and Javier Bardem. And if you haven't seen the first movie, I highly recommend it. Also, if you haven't read the original novel by Frank Herbert, I highly recommend that. Part 2 is based off of the second half of that novel, and the second half is where things get really, really good. So like I said, I went into this thing with pretty high expectations already, especially with all the critical praise that it's been receiving. But at the same time, I went into it with the expectations of a massive fan of the source material. I was really excited about where this story goes, and especially the introduction of a lot of these characters, and across the board, I just gotta say, they all delivered. This movie is a cinematic achievement that I haven't seen, truthfully, I think since maybe seeing Lord of the Rings Return of the King in theaters? Sure, there have been incredible movies since then, obviously, but this is a contained story that's helmed as one of the greats of all time. And what Denis Villeneuve managed to capture with Part 1 and Part 2 now is what I feel like audiences are just craving right now. Spectacle, sound, and emotion. The way that Part 2 was adapted from the novel stayed true to its core while adjusting things where some might say necessary. I'm sure that there's some people out there who've already seen the movie and know the novel and that might disagree with me on that. I think some of the changes in this movie are certainly up for debate, but again, the core is there, and that core is Paul Atreides. And just like I talked about in my Dune Part 2 prediction video, to me, this role, this performance just cemented Timothée Chalamet as a global superstar. And I know you might be thinking, like, I mean, he already is a huge star after Wonka, but this is that Titanic moment. I feel like this puts him at that caliber of Leonardo DiCaprio. Obviously, this is just my opinion, but to me, it just felt like his moment. And I'm definitely not going to leave out Zendaya. Her portrayal of his Fremen counterpart slash warrior was unbelievable. Those two are now just a powerhouse, man. And if they came back in a third part, in a third movie, in Dune Messiah, that would just, oh my gosh, that would be bliss. But staying with the acting and performances, another one that really stuck out to me was Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica. Oh my gosh. The darkness and the power in her eyes. It's crazy just seeing that on the big screen. She really has this way of establishing her presence. And she was amazing in Part 1, and I was very much looking forward to Part 2, and it only got better. It really did. But also, we have a lot of actors returning. We have Javier Bardem returning as Stilgar. We have Josh Brolin returning as Gurney Halleck. We have Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron Harkonnen. We have Dave Bautista as Beast Rabban. And then we have the newcomers. And I'll save the best for last here, but I'll start with the one casting to me that is literally like a one-to-one adaptation from the book of what I pictured in my mind. She might not be as tall as she is in the pages written, but Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan was fantastic. And if you're a fan of the novel and you're wondering if there is a reading from Princess Irulan in this movie, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think you're going to be pretty happy. But then there's her father, the Emperor, and he's played by Christopher Walken. And wow, what a beautiful role for him at this stage in his career. It's one of those things where you see Christopher Walken on screen in a role like this, and you're just, I don't know, I was just so happy to see him there. And he delivered. It's not like it was just kind of one of those roles where you're like, oh, cool, it's Christopher Walken, but he's not really doing anything. The Emperor does have a prominent role in the end of this film, and what Christopher Walken managed to get out of that performance was pretty freaking sweet. It could have used a little more cowbell though. But for me, the real standout was Austin Butler as the psychotic nephew of the Baron Harkonnen, Fade Routha. This was just the highlight of the entire film for me, guys. It really was. Although there might not be as much screen time as you want, I think that's a good thing, because that just means that his performance was so good that you're just really wanting more. Fade embodies everything evil that you could want in a villain, and the culmination of this movie pits our characters against each other in a way I'd imagine you're absolutely gonna love. The action in this film was phenomenal, and when it comes to Fade, it was was freaking badass. It has some of the best hand-to-hand combat that you'll see in movies, and then just aside from that, with a filmmaker like Denis Villeneuve who uses so much practicality, the effects were unreal. The sandworms, man, and just every little detail, the costumes, the weapons, the characters, the ships, the spice, all of it was so unique. He created a visual world that completely captures you. Similar to Star Wars, and also similar to Star Wars, you have a legendary composer working on this film in Hans Zimmer. And the whole movie, he's just slamming you in the ears with non-stop beauty. It's unbelievable. And you mix that with Greg Fraser's amazing eye as the DP and Denis Villeneuve's writing and his creativity, and they just captured magic. To me, and I think honestly to a lot of people out there, this movie's gonna go down as one of the greats. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to make a very quick spoiler-free review just to tell you out there, go see this movie. It's definitely worth it. Also, if you do see the movie, I'll be doing a full deep dive on it here on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. But as for my star rating for Dune Part 2, guys, I gotta give it 5 out of 5 stars, no doubt. It left me very emotional, to be honest, because I just can't believe that this exists now. I'm probably going to go to the theaters like 10 more times. But are you guys planning on seeing Dune Part 2? Have you already seen it? If so, what are your thoughts? Please let me know all of that down below in the comments. I love reading your guys' comments. I read every single one that comes in. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash like, subscribe if you're new here. You can follow me on X at JonesVibesOnly, and don't forget to keep up the good vibes, guys. But do you guys think that Paul Atreides is the Lisan Al Gaib? That'd be crazy, right?
Jones Vibes.